Welcome to the Rams postgame show. My name is Victor Corona, aka Vic the producer, and coming to you live from SoFi Stadium is Gilbert Manzano, who does it for the LA Daily News, Orange County Register. Gilbert, I know it's a somber locker room, another tough loss for the Rams, but where do you want to get us started today?
Yeah, it's tough because I feel like you could just play back the show from last week or the show before that week and the show before that week because it's the same thing every single week, Victor. And I think I start most post-game shows saying it's the same damn thing every single week offensively. And I guess we could start with the Sean McVay. Last week it was about making changes. Now he's pretty much pleading for improvements. He admitted he hasn't seen improvements out there. Like I don't think he wants to point fingers, but he's kind of hey, he's trying out there as a coach to scheme plays, and then when the plays are out there, they're not executing, they're not winning their one-on-one matchups. So that kind of tells you a lot. And just to summarize how this game went, and again, let's be real. There was no Matthew Stafford, that hurts. But when Matthew Stafford has been out there, it's been the same kind of thing. This time there's been two quarterbacks. So uh, at one point they had Bryce Perkins and Lance McCutcheon together on the field, and that kind of told me like they were hoping to recreate some preseason magic. That's how bad it's gotten here. They want preseason magic. They want Wolford on a bootleg to Allen Robinson from training camp. They want what they saw in training camp, what they saw in August to save their season. The defending Super Bowl champions want summer magic to save their season. So that kind of summarizes where they are. And I think they're finally getting to the point where they're saying, yeah, this team is not a playoff team. So will you come in and be professional and play for pride? So when you got guys like Bobby Wagner saying you got to be professional and pride is what you got to come in for, that pretty much tells you without admitting to it that they're not a playoff team.
Yeah, and going off of Matt Stafford not being able to play today, you knew that they were in for a battle, and sure enough, that's what they got. And Sean McVay looked like, as you talked about in your story, that he tried to be innovative with his play calling early on, and then it just seemed to go away. Like there was a point there where the play calling just wasn't as good as it was because the plays weren't scripted. And I love what you said about innovation, that it's no longer there. You said that it disappeared, and then of course Wolford and Perkins delivered on three straight 3-and-outs, and that coincided with that 13 play 66-yard scoring drive that gave Arizona a 10-3 lead, and they never looked back. I mean, it was pretty bad after that. And I know Rams have to be really disappointed with the product this year. I mean, at least you can say that you won the Super Bowl and this was the price you paid for it, and you can start to go the rest of the season to try and see and evaluate what you have for next season.
Yeah, going off of all that with the offense, and one thing I remember from my conversation with Rob Havenstein, the right tackle for the Rams, team captain, he kept going back on the three consecutive 3-and-outs after the scripted plays. I think what was it, 14 plays, something like that. They get a field goal, don't get a touchdown, but which is kind of a theme here for this team here. But they get three consecutive 3-and-outs, and Rob Havenstein kept saying like, "Man, those 3-and-outs were killer." And the crazy part, like, it was better than last week. Last week they had 8 3-and-outs, and this week they only had like 3 or 4. But you know what they did again? They were held under 300 total yards one more time, 256 yards. They were held under 70 rushing yards one more time, with 66, I think. And they got 32 rushing yards on the first drive, Victor. That's half of them because they were scripted, they were creative, and after that they went away. And then admit that during that the 3 punts there, you know what happened in between the John Wolford fumble? There was a touchdown from Arizona before that, touchdown from Arizona after that. So with this offense, they can't really make up deficits. So after that, that was pretty much your ball game. So I think you have a good point there, Victor. So again, like this team can't play from behind, and imagine trying to do it without Stafford now. So I get it. I think the funny thing, like they couldn't settle or pick on a running back, right? Like they got another one today, Kyron Williams, same thing. The thing with the quarterback, pick one. I know they're trying to do something with Bryce Perkins. Like I would have wanted to see more Bryce Perkins and John Wolford. I know most people who support the Rams, the fans are feeling the same way as me. But I don't know. John Wolford, tried out there. He had a nice play to Allen Robinson. That's about it. He had a couple overthrows. And then the crazy part, Victor, you're going to ask me right now. I just saw a report from Rap Sheet. Cooper Cup, 3 catches, -1 yard. When your best player, your one consistent spot does that, you're not going to win a game.
Yeah, and we'll get to the injury. I want your update, but I just want to go back a little bit to some of the points that you made because one of the things that stood out to me post game was your tweet with from Shug Bay because they're at 3-6 right now, and he said we just got to be able to do a better product out there, start to see some improvement, and that's a challenging thing. Been there hasn't been examples of that occurring, so I mean, it goes back to what we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks in terms of Sean McVay. And I think he's running out of things to be able to bring up in terms of where the season can go. And I think just like Ram fans, everybody is frustrated at this point. And then going back to talking about where Ram fans sit right now in terms of the quarterback situation with Stafford out. I know a lot of people were asking, like, why are you keeping 3 quarterbacks at this point if you're not going to use any of them? So that's the other situation we have on our hands here, Gilbert.
Yeah, Daniel Calderon said probably the worst performance on offense since 2017. Maybe go back a year, Jeff Fisher days. So uh,
Yes.
I think somebody tweeted out for the 77 offensive yards the Rams had in the first half was the lowest ever in the Sean McVay era.
Yes.
So yeah, you have 3 quarterbacks, and then maybe they don't even have one good backup. So that's like a roster spot right there. But you know, Sean McVay tried to recycle some plays with the Ben Skoranek playing fullback. It worked for a couple of weeks. It didn't work today. I tried talking to Ben Skoranek. He wasn't having it. He wasn't happy today. So, um, you know, I think it's gotten to a point where, like, especially if Cooper Cup misses games, like, time to look ahead. Uh, yeah, Aaron Donald retires his offseason. Daniel Calderon says, I don't know. We'll see. But one thing I'm going to keep going to because it really sticks out to me in my mind. And I'm going to write about it tomorrow. So I'm going to give away my story. Uh, but I had a one-on-one conversation with Bobby Wagner, and it was time to keep it real. I talked to Bobby Wagner, and I say, like, I'm sure you didn't come to LA to be on a 3-6 team. You wanted to come to LA to win a Super Bowl, win another one because you won in Seattle. What do you do now? Where do you go from here when you're 3-6, and maybe you don't want to be looking at the standings because you already know that it's a long way to get out of this hole. And I told him, Terrell Lewis. I spoke to Terrell Lewis too, and Terrell Lewis told me, I'm not used to doing this. I won a lot in Alabama. I won a lot here with the Rams. And then Bobby Wagner was like, I won at Utah State. I didn't win a lot. I know what it's like to lose. I've been in the NFL for a long time. So, what I'm gonna tell my teammates come Monday, are you gonna come here and be professional and play for pride? He said, I'm gonna make sure. Like, Bobby Wagner's a really calm dude, but to me, I felt like he was trying to get me fired up. He looked at me in the eyes and said, we need to be professional. We need to play for pride. So sometimes when you just take it a one game approach at a time, I hate saying that because it's a cliche. You
Yeah.
never know what happens, but just play for pride. And that's where we are. They want to admit to it that they're probably not a playoff team. But if you play for pride, you never know what happens because, like you mentioned, Sean McVay said he can't even see any kind of improvements out there. So uh, he's gone with the 2 quarterbacks, some keepers here, some bootlegs there, Ben Skoranek fullback. It's just not working.
Yeah, and one of the things that why you bring in someone like Bobby Wagner is for that veteran presence, and he's showing why you bring someone in like that. Seeing that leadership and right now is important because you're going to need to develop those players that you want to see going forward the rest of the season as you go into next season. I mean, can they make a run here at 3-6? Sure, but I mean, at this point, you're looking in the mirror and saying, you know what? We have to be a professional going forward and try to develop these players as much as you can. But I wanted to get an update from you in terms of the Cooper Cup injury and also what anybody talked to Matthew Stafford about how he's feeling. What's the update with him?
Yeah, the Matthew Stafford stuff, maybe not too much of an update. I think Sean McVay was trying to make it seem like, he was close to playing, but they're going to play it safe, regardless. And then John Wolford admitted that he knew by Friday he was going to play. So they had their mind made up by Friday that Stafford had no chance of playing. So we'll see how that happens for next week. But then Cooper Cup, man, like Sean McVay said he had no update, but then he's like, let me tell you this, it didn't sound good, it didn't look good. And usually when Sean McVay says that, the player at least misses a couple games. And I think I just saw Ian Rappaport, a reporter, said that they're expecting Cooper Cup to miss a couple games, not the season. But when you're 3-6 and you're desperate for a win, and your best player, your best consistent player, it won't be available, and maybe your starting quarterback won't be available, it might be time to start looking ahead to next year. And it sounds hard to say for if you're listening, Rams fan, that you don't think about next year. You think about the current. That's why you trade away your first round picks. But at some point, be happy, like you mentioned, Victor. You be happy with the Super Bowl and look ahead, because, you know, the thing we haven't even mentioned, Victor, the Cardinals were in the same situation. They were a wounded animal. They were desperate. Cliff Kingsbury was on the hot seat, or potentially, and they had a backup quarterback too, Colt McCoy. They played better. They executed better. Colt McCoy, I still can't believe he made that throw to Rondale Moore on the fourth down for 26 yards. That pretty much clinched the game. He made a big throw, and the receiver made a big time play. So, and then, you know, a week ago, Jalen Ramsey was trying to, hold the offense accountable. Start looking in the mirror now, Jalen Ramsey, because your defense, one takeaway combined in the past 7 games, zero takeaways in the past 3 games. Yes, I know last week we were trying to defend Raheem Morris, but today they could have it. When you lose to Colt McCoy and you don't come up with game-changing plays. The Cardinals make game-changing plays. J.J. Watt got lucky. They got lucky. J.J. Watt didn't get a scoop and score a touchdown. So the Cardinals stepped up. That's a team that the Rams had their number, and that pretty much summarizes how the season's going.
Yeah, as Daniel Calderon says, without Cup, we should sit the starters and get ready for next season. I mean, that's pretty much the reality that is going on with the Rams right now. But I wanted to go over some of the stuff that we saw defensively from the Rams, as you talked about, because you set me up there, and I hit
Yeah,
with
sorry.
the defense. No, 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 that was great. I mean, and so Colt McCoy finishes 26 of 37 for 238 yards, one touchdown, and then the one that it's a killer because James Conner came into this game with one touchdown on the season, and he had two, and he carried the ball for 21 times for 69 yards. So those were killers. And then to see Cole McCoy just like throw darts out there and put balls like right on target was just it was devastating to see in terms of the defense, because those were killers, because you were expecting, at least with the backups that you have with the Rams, to be able to beat someone like Colt McCoy. But it showed that having a proven backup quarterback can really go a long way, and that showed today.
Yeah, again, like you mentioned, why keep three quarterbacks if you can't trust two of them? If you keep John Wolford on the roster because you believe he's better than Bryce Perkins, and let him play the entire game. Like I know I'm going back on the offense here, but uh, this defense has been the same thing. Like bend don't break, but then they're not making game changing plays. And last week against Tom Brady, that was a good performance. But today against Colt McCoy, DeAndre Hopkins had that one drive towards the end of the first half, just willed the team up the field for a red zone area, and James Conner did the rest. That throw, that dart from Colt McCoy, like these guys were making plays, and that's all Sean McVay is asking for at this point. Just make a couple plays. Like, Van Jefferson didn't get his first catch of the season until garbage time. He had the touchdown, right? He had a garbage time
Yes,
touchdown.
yes, late in the
Uh,
game.
he didn't start the game because they were trying to try something with Ben Skoranek at fullback. It didn't work. So I was head scratching to me that Van Jefferson wasn't playing more out there. Uh, Cam Akers had one play, but yeah, I'm going all over the field, over the place here. But with the defense, it's starting to catch up to them. When they're seeing their offense struggle week in, week out, I think they're starting to get out of it mentally. And it's up to Bobby Wagner, Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey to make sure these guys don't check out. But let's be real here. 3-6. You play the New Orleans Saints here. I know the Saints are struggling, but do you think the Rams could win that game without Cooper Cup? I don't know. I don't see it. And at that point, you're 3-7.
Yeah, and it's gonna be it's tough sledding going forward because you go to New Orleans and then you go to the Chiefs. So I mean, it doesn't get any easier. But I wanted to shout out Daniel Calderon again because he's the one in the comments, and he's one of the ones that is actually giving us some feedback, which we appreciate. He says Raheem defense got picked apart by McCoy. Yikes! And I mean he's right on. One of the things that I kind of wanted to go over with you was aside from the game plan early on with McVay and of course the defense. The special teams haven't been great either, but I think one spotlight that has been really good has been the return game with Brian Powell. I just wanted to get your thoughts on him, just to have some kind of positivity, so it doesn't sound all gloomy tonight.
Yeah, if you're doing like an MVP race here for the team, Cooper Cup number
Yeah,
one, number two, Matt
yeah,
Gay, the kicker. He makes his field goals. That's cool. I
yeah.
guess you're seeing more than I am on Brandon Powell, or maybe I'm not paying attention more in the return game because I guess they get some decent field position, but like this team needs game changing plays. Maybe at some point Brandon Paul takes one to the house. Maybe he takes one, cross midfield. So uh, the defense needs to make plays. It can't just be Cooper Cup and Matt Gay out there every single week. So uh, I guess special teams is doing okay, but at some point it's like, one thing that Sean McVay kept saying today was complimentary football. And I think that was his way to finally say, like, what's up, defense? Like, help us out here. Like, we're struggling here. We're frustrated with the offense. We know every week the offense is going to be a struggle. Can we get some help here? So uh, I think you need it. Like last week, Bobby Wagner had that blocked field goal attempt, but I didn't really do much. But you need plays like that, they just kind of like give you life, get you excited like that. You were watching the game from home, the broadcast. Like there's things I missed. Did it feel like there was any life out there? Were people excited? Were the sideline? Like it just feels dead.
I mean, and one of the things that was like just eye catching was your tweet when you said that people were leaving the stadium at the 7 minute mark, and I haven't seen that from Ram fans in a while since at least since Sean McVay's been the coach.
They were
I haven't
booing.
seen that. Right, and they were booing, and so that was pretty rough to watch. But I think eventually someone has to fire this team up. Like it sounds like there's no life to this team right now, and I think they're gonna start feeling the criticism. And I know that we talked about Jalen Ramsey and him being vocal, and you love seeing that from the players. But I think what some of the fans are gonna want, especially down the stretch, is that you're fighting to end the season and that you show that you have something left in you to give it all. And as you talked about earlier with Bobby Wagner, at least you're gonna get it from him, and he's gonna lead the way with that. But it's kind of concerning to see that there wasn't a lot of life in terms of it basically felt like they gave up on the season today because Stafford wasn't there, and that
Yeah.
was pretty bad to see. But I wanted to share this just because it from for Daniel Calderon. He says, y'all might be the only Rams channel with insights, so you gotta have lives a bit longer than 30 minutes. So
Okay.
yeah, I mean, unfortunately, Gilbert only is only able to give us about 20 minutes because he's there live from SoFi. So, and then they kick him out, and he's got to work on his stories and got other responsibilities. But we do appreciate the feedback that we get from the fans, and then also the time that Gilbert gives us because he's got locker room access and he's giving us the insight as you talked about, Daniel. So that's pretty cool. But
Yeah.
we'll end with this. Give me your final thoughts. I know
Yeah.
it's been kind of somber tonight, but we kind of expect. I mean, we both picked the Rams to win this game,
Uh,
even knowing that this might be the battle of the backups. But
yeah.
it was tough to watch tonight. But just give me your final thoughts on this loss and as we look ahead to the Saints.
Yeah, first of all, shout out to Daniel for the kind words there. I feel like I'm not bringing my best performance today because I feel like I feel defeated. This offense is a struggle to watch.
I feel
Uh,
like I gotta be Bobby Wagner
yeah,
here and fire you up, man. I don't think I've given you enough tonight. So
yeah. But my final takeaway is this because at some point you got to get away from the football side of it because they're being consistent offensively. Like, they hover around like 300 yards total. Under 70 yards rushing. Cooper Cup gets the bulk of it. What, 15, 16 points? Like they did it again today, right? And then
Mhm.
Rob Havenstein says like, can we just get a game where we get 70 plays? They had 60 plays today. And I checked, and the last time they had a game where they had over 60 or 70 plays was week 4 against the 49ers. They lost that game, but at least they sustained drives. They're not sustaining drives because when you don't have long drives, you can't get everybody involved. And for some reason, maybe this is where I should be a little more fair for Sean McVay. He's trying to get people involved with a bunch of carries and the running game, the quarterback, all that, because he wants to get people touches, but there's no long drives. And I think, that's what I take away. But outside from the football part, I think that was my first point, Victor. Like, Rob Havenstein, what, after the Cowboys game, got a players only meeting for the offensive line to figure it out. That didn't really work. Jalen Ramsey being critical of the offense last week. That didn't work. Cooper Kupp saying, calling out kind of the coach. I think he's calling out the coach, but everybody, give me innovation. That didn't work. So people are trying different things here. And at some point, you get frustrated, and what can you really do? Like, I can't figure out what they could do. Uh, it could be, I could say, hey, just pick a running back and make it simple, but it's not working, and maybe it's just the players, and it's a little bit of both because at some point, like, we kept waiting for this to catch up for the Rams, right? Like, you win the Super Bowl, you're giving away your first round picks, you're bringing in current talent, and then like, okay, well, where's the salary cap? Like, you eventually got to pay the price, right? We're all wondering, you got to pay the price here, and I think it's the season. Like, reinforcements never came. They got hampered by injuries. They're trying these players only meetings. They're just trying everything here, and I think another thing too about it too, Victor. Like, Sean McVay's grandfather passed away, and we just kind of like forgot about it. And like, hey, dude, fix the offense. That's life.
Right.
Things happen,
Yeah.
and I think it's kind of taking a toll for many reasons, many areas, and it's just one of those seasons where it's just lost. And I think just start thinking about the mock draft, start thinking about that second round pick that the Rams have, and look forward to next year because it's hard to admit it, but this team is not going to the playoffs. I think I'm ready to say that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go off of what Daniel says here, and it's about talent. I think we underestimated the fact that all the talent that they lost over the offseason, and we just assumed that they were gonna be fine this year going into, and they were gonna pick right back up. And I think the other thing we're seeing is that Sean McVay, without his weapons, just like every other coach, you need talent, and he doesn't have that right now, and he's struggling to figure things out because this is the first time that he under with the Rams that he has to deal with that. And so, just you just have to deal with it this season, learn from it, and then get ready for the off season, and then make sure that and you're glad at this point that you didn't trade some of those picks, because at least you'll be able to have those picks to be able to either get more talent and develop your own talent. So,
Yeah.
and then we'll get to. I know this is going to be hard for both of us because you asked me who was going to be the 12 pack of beer player of the game, and honestly, I didn't have anybody for you, and I don't think I have one for you as of right now. So, if you have one, please go ahead and share it with us.
I don't even want to look at the stat sheet to give kind of an easy beer of the game, and for sure, it's Rolling Rocks today, Victor. This is
Yes.
Pabst Blue Ribbon Day. It's anything you could think of, simpler times, anything that costs $1. I don't know, Cobra, the King Cobra, the malt liquor. I don't know, or Four Locos. Anything you can think of that's bad, you're taking that today, and I'm trying to think who made a play out there, like,
Here, why don't I give you one? I'll go, since I kind of gave you guys a guy to go
yeah,
with
yeah.
this for fantasy. It's Tyler Higbee. He led all receivers in catches today. He had 7 receptions. Let me check what else he did. He had a couple of things here. He did pretty well in terms of he what did he have? I'm trying to check. He had 8 catches for, actually, I 8 catches for 73 yards. So there you go. I mean, he gave you some good fantasy points if you picked them off the waiver wire there. So I'll go with Tyler Higbee. He'll get some of that beer pong beer But with that,
And then just give it to Matt Gay. I don't care. Give it to Matt Gay. You made your field goals, man. Whatever. Let's go. That's my pick.
But before you go, please plug. Give us, let us know what you're working on, and then where can people find you?
Yeah, definitely check out my stories at the Orange County Register, LA Daily News, or follow me on Twitter at gmanzano24. I link out all the stories, and yeah, I think that you promoted the story here. The first one I wrote was needing improvements, needing innovation. What's gonna happen with Cooper Cup, and then I think right now I'm just gonna do like a notebook on the defense, the Stafford being out. So, but I think tomorrow I'm gonna save that Bobby Wagner story from my Rams review story. Because I think that was very telling. They're like, hey, it's not a playoff season, but you better be professional. You better come to play and have pride on my watch. So Bobby Wagner was pretty serious about that.
And before we go, I just want to give a shout out to Daniel Calderon and Danny Freijo, who were on the commenting and giving us some feedback tonight. We appreciate that. So with that, Gilbert, get us out of here and get home safely.
Stay positive, viewers of House of Horns, and be happy for me because I get to go to New Orleans next week. I like going to New Orleans, so some positive vibes there. But on that note, ya nos vamos, pues, vámonos.